Hey, what's up? My name is Joey, and I have the privilege of being the lead pastor at a church in Philadelphia called the Block Church, and we're a multi-site church, and we're in the middle of an incredible crisis right now in the history of our planet. Maybe you're watching this in 2020 and it's current, or maybe you've stumbled upon this years later. I felt like it was important for me to document what was happening in history for my own leadership and for people to refer back to, because here's what we know. Here's what we know. This crisis of COVID-19, which is what we're facing right now, this virus that has affected almost every country on the planet, we know this, that it will end and it will pass. But we also know that there will be another crisis in the future. That's just how life works. And so I wanted to speak into the moment, but also remind myself and others of how to handle crisis when we're in it again. And so I'd love to take the next few moments and speak to the leadership of all of us, to those who are leading and who will or who are leading in this crisis. Now, a little context. Again, I said my church is a multi-site church. We were in the middle, just weeks ago, in the middle of our greatest season of work and of ministry, yet so much momentum, the best time we've ever had spiritually and in our growth metrics and financially. I mean, we were really moving, getting ready to make some key hires, and we were actually getting ready to launch our fourth location in the city, and we had plans to launch other locations in this calendar year. And so for all of that to stop in a moment, it just reminds you how fickle life is, how in one moment you can be moving in one direction and then in another moment it stops. We canceled our services on Saturday morning leading into Sunday. And so it's been an unprecedented time as we faced COVID-19. But I think there's a lot to learn in regards to leading in the middle of a crisis. Many have led in crises before us, and many will lead after us. But what do we do right now? And I want to title this brief talk, will it define us or will it destroy us? Because that's what crises do. They define you or they destroy you. And I believe that if we lean in and do what we do as leaders, it can define us. So I want to speak to a few things today around that, define us or destroy us. Here's some thoughts. Here's number one. Each crisis is a chapter in the story of your destiny. What do I mean by that? Well, how you handle a crisis will lead to promotion or it will lead to a fallout, to pain. In other words, this crisis will promote you or it will plummet you. And I think that it's really important for all of us to understand that this moment in time cannot and should not be wasted. An English proverb says this, it says, "Cometh the hour, cometh the man." And I really want you to understand that this is our moment that can define us, how we respond to our communities, how we think, how we plan, how we move, how we act. All of it will culminate into a promotion that defines us or a problem that plummets us. And not all problems are bad problems. In fact, these problems we're facing right now is probably forcing us to prove some people and to prove some things around us and take some steps that maybe we've been waiting on. And the thing is the people who make it through crises are often the ones who were prepared before they got into it. Because the reality is passion without preparation leads us to nothing. But if we utilize the times before crisis, or if while we're in it, if we both prepare and utilize our passion, then we can eliminate some of the pain in the after effect. At the same time, the preparedness and the passion that we utilize in this moment right now, it will so far outlast the pain and the problems that we might face as a fallout from a crisis. So what am I saying? Each crisis is a chapter in the story of your destiny. It will either promote you or it will plummet you. What are you doing right now for when this ends to be defined and experience a promotion? Here's the second thing. Each crisis presents to us countless opportunities. Countless opportunities. I have just been thinking to myself and saying that this is the moment, I've been saying this to our team, this is the moment we need to look to invest. This is the moment we need to look for opportunities to connect, to collaborate, to merge, to work. This is the moment, this opportunity right now. We may never get an opportunity like this again in our lifetime. What are we doing with it? Let's not waste it. An opportunity often knocks to those who were prepared before they got there. And I believe as an organization, we were prepared for this moment, and I believe we're going to come out stronger. I believe that businesses and churches and organizations who function at a high level in this moment are going to come out stronger. But let me tell you, this hit us like a whirlwind. I mean, in a moment, things changed. But all of a sudden, when it changed, I had to catch my breath. And as an organization and as a team, you're going to have to catch your breath. You're going to have to catch your stride. That might take you a couple weeks. But when that catching of the breath and when that moment to settle into reality, when that ends, what are you doing? You got to be thinking opportunity. I read a story, and I've been looking at people who succeeded in the last financial crisis in 2008, 2009, and I read the story of John Paulson, he was a hedge fund investor, and he made, and I'm not speaking to any part of whether that's right or wrong, but I'm just speaking to the fact that in the last crisis, he made $2.5 billion because he seized the opportunity in the crisis. Additionally, in 2009, he adjusted his methods, and then he made even more and positioned himself for other opportunities with banks. The point is now is the time to invest, if you can. If you've got margin, you should be looking for opportunity to execute. Now is the time to set in new people. Now is the time to move out when you can. People, it's a great, graceful time to promote and demote. Of course, we have to be sensitive, and we've got to be careful about people's situation and circumstance, but now is the moment to execute on opportunities that maybe we've been waiting for. Maybe you haven't been able to focus on those opportunities because you've had other things in the daily rhythms of life and of business and of ministry taking place, but I think now is the greatest moment to seize opportunities. What are we going to do about it? Here's number 3. Each crisis enhances innovation. It enhances the opportunity for innovation. I read this the other day, and I thought this was brilliant, that innovation loves a crisis. For us and for me, I've just been thinking we had to, and probably like most churches, we had to move our entire organization online. It's something that we should have done a long time ago, but because of the rhythms of what was going on, we hesitated, we waited, we'll get to it. And this forced us to innovate. It forced us to think out of the box. It forced us to go, there is a whole market of people that we're not reaching, that we're not involving in our community. It forced us to think, how am I going to train people from a distance? It forced us to make videos to do training. It forced us to think, how are we going to value people? How are we going to develop people? It forced innovation on us, and we're not mad about it. And what I'm saying is crisis, it leads us and enhances innovation. Many great organizations, many great companies are defined and made in moments of crisis because they've been forced to innovate. And when you're forced to innovate and you succeed in that opportunity, it certainly defines you and promotes you because you begin to do something that other people emulate. See, crisis is a great opportunity to innovate. You need to look around. We need to look around and not waste this crisis and not waste this moment, because if we look around and we see things are not working or things were not going well, it's a time to evaluate and then innovate. It's a great time with your team to sit back and say, well, this wasn't working. We didn't try this before. Now we should try, because the reality is for many of us, at this point, we don't have much to lose. And those of us who have margin, we've got some room to innovate to where we can still survive and thrive because of the situation. It is a pertinent time to innovate. Number 4, each crisis separates the leaders from the followers. Each crisis separates the leaders from the followers. I think that's really, really important for us to understand that leaders will rise to the top in crisis. They will provide calm for people. They will provide a sense of direction for people. People will begin to naturally lean on those. If you are a leader in an organization and a leader of leaders, you need to be paying attention to your people in the middle of the crisis, because you're going to know who's next and who's ready to step into what's next for them. You're going to know who's ready to launch another site when this ends. You're going to know who's ready to step into an executive role. You're going to look around at your team and you're going to know who's ready for the next thing, because a crisis always shows us who the real leaders are. You're going to find out who the people are that are ready. For you've been going so fast, we've been moving so fast, trying to just get through week to week, Sunday to Sunday. That's been hard to look up, and this is a great moment to look up. Crisis always separates the leaders from the followers. And it forces you to check yourself and ask yourself, how am I leading? Am I leading with vision? Am I leading with innovation? Am I leading with confidence? And I get it. I know it's been a whirlwind, and I know there is a sense of panic, but now is not the time, in the midst of fear and panic, to flight. Now is the time to fight. And you're going to find out a lot about yourself in a crisis. You're going to find a lot about the kind of leader you are or the kind of leader you wished you would be. But don't get to a point where you say, I should have been that leader. Now is the moment. Don't waste this opportunity. And finally, number 5, each crisis illuminates who's with you and who's just around you. Every leader needs to hear that. Each crisis will illuminate who is with you and who's just around you. Now, I stood around with my team twice. I stood around with my team as all of this started to happen. And I got up, and for us, again, I'm a pastor, and we are praying, and we're seeking God as to what to do. You might be in a realm of spheres of influence. But for me, we had a prayer time, and then I looked at everybody and I made a speech, and I said, if you're not fully all in and with us in this moment in time, get out. I need you to leave. Because I rather have less of us than more of us, but all of us who are all in on this mission and who are with me in this season and who are not in this for a paycheck, because the possibilities of you losing your paycheck or your paycheck decreasing, it's very possible in this moment. But are you about the mission? And crisis always shows you who is about the mission of your organization and who's about the mission of what you're doing and who's about you as a leader. And not everyone is going to be gung-ho for you, but they might be gung-ho for the mission. And what I think crisis allows us to do is draw a line in the sand and say, if you are with me, now is the time I need you more than ever. And if you're not, there's the door. Because we don't have time to play games with people right now who are going to be half in and who are going to be trying to use this moment as an opportunity to take a vacation. Now, I'm not saying that we don't take moments like this to reset and rest, and you've got to build that in. That's necessary. But at the end of the day, as a leader, you're looking in times of crisis who's with you or who's just around you. Because when it ends, and when you've succeeded, and promotion comes, and more money's coming in and more opportunities coming in, you do not want to give that to the people who were just around you. You want to give that to the people who were with you. So let's review briefly, and then I want to give you some quick action steps. Is this crisis going to define us or destroy us? Number 1, each crisis is a chapter in the story of your destiny. It's going to either promote you or pummel you. How are you prepared going in or while you're in it? And how will you succeed based on your passion? Here's number 2. Each crisis presents countless opportunities. Countless opportunities. The old English proverb said, cometh the hour, cometh the man. Are you going to step up and step into the opportunities to invest and seize the moment? Number 3, each crisis enhances innovation. Innovation loves a crisis. Number 4, each crisis separates the leaders from the followers. Leaders, pay attention who's around and who steps up in this moment. And then number 5, each crisis illuminates who's around, who's with you versus who's just around you. Got to know that, because when it ends, you're going to want to promote the people who are with you. Now, if you're leading through crisis, let me give you 5 brief things, and then we'll go on our way. Here's number 1. If you're leading in a crisis, I think you've got to go with your gut, but still sprinkle in some data. So maybe a better way to say that is, if you're leading through a crisis, utilize data, but go with your gut. Utilize data, but go with your gut. So all sorts of data are surrounding us in this process in COVID-19. And things are evolving minute by minute. But the thing is you're not going to have everything you've got available to you in a moment, because it could change tomorrow. But you've got to make decisions today. So you've got to utilize the data you have, but at the end of the day, you got to trust your gut. Trust your gut as a leader, because your gut, your insides, your guiding compass, your true north, your North Star, that is what's going to take your organization where it needs to go in the midst of this. Number 2, it's a great time to collaborate and cooperate. It's a great time to collaborate and cooperate. People need help in this season. People need partnership in this season. You might find a relationship that's extremely fruitful to you when this moment in time ends. And really, it's a great time to offer what you do have if you do have it. So I'm seeing this all over the nation, that churches are having to go online, but I'm seeing bigger churches opening up their auditoriums for other churches who don't have the access to record sermons and utilize their production company. That's beautiful, and that's going to create other opportunities as we collaborate and cooperate. Furthermore, it's going to invite potential promotions for you and for your team. Here's number 3. If you're leading through crisis, we've got to be bold and decisive, but also calculated. Going back to the opportunity moment, now is not the time to shrink back. You've got to be bold and you've got to be decisive. You've got to make decisions. You've got to lead your people. You might have to say sorry. You're not going to get it right all the time. You're going to make mistakes. That's normal. It's part of it, but you still got to be bold and decisive while also being calculated. It's a good time to try to make decisions. Of course, as a leader, you've got to probably make the final decision, but involve other people who can speak into the situation, collaborate, cooperate, be calculated, get as much data as you can, but be bold and be decisive and take risks in this moment in time. And number 4, you got to be authentic, but not panicked. So if you're in this crisis, it's important for you to be real, but also not be panicked. Again, this will pass. Now, there's certain people that you can be panicked with. If you've got a spouse, if you've got a close friend, if you have a mentor, you can be panicked with them. But when you're leading your people, you can be authentic. You can tell them that you're struggling. You can tell them a little bit of what you're fearful about. But there's a difference between being authentic and panicked, and be authentic, honest, right? And still being bold and decisive. So be authentic with your people. People need to see you that, hey, I'm a little bit concerned about this. And hey, this is honestly what's taking place. And I'm a little bit concerned. Show your human side, but don't be panicked. People want to follow a leader, as we know, not necessarily always right, but someone who's always authentic. And then finally, number 5, if you're in crisis, you got to think survival and growth simultaneously. So again, this is the trick. This is the dichotomy. This is the challenge. I've got to think about survival. Okay, I've got to worry about make sure my organization makes it, and we're going to get through this. But at the same time, I'm also thinking about growth. I've told every one of my team members, we can grow through this. Not only are we going to grow as leaders, but we can grow people. We can reach more people through this. When we get back, we can be bigger than when we left. Sunday morning, when we fully relaunch and when we come back home, we can be bigger and broader and deeper. See, we don't have to just be wide, we can be deeper. And I think that that's going to happen. You've got to think survival. You can't do everything you want to do. You're not going to be able to make hasty decisions and things that could bring down the organization. You know, I'm not saying go all in like you were at a casino, but you can certainly, in a calculated way, take some risks and some steps. You have to think both survival and growth, because in this season, if you only think survival but not growth, you're going to survive, but you're not going to be ready for the changing world that awaits us. So we got to think survival and growth. Let me recap that again. If you are fighting through this crisis, I gave you some ways to think and some things to do. Here's number one, utilize data, but go with your gut. Number two, collaborate and cooperate. Number three, be bold and decisive, but also calculated. Number four, be authentic, but not panicked. And number five, think survival and growth simultaneously. Listen, I hope this helped you. And maybe you are seeing this months or years after the crisis ends. There will be another crisis, and you don't have to fear it. Be prepared for it, and they take action while you're in it. Thank you so much. Come on, this is going to define us, not destroy us.